Hey guys, what's up? It is Public back with another video. This time I want to kind of deep dive into this Mindbender build, what it is, why it's a problem, how does it work, all that good stuff. I know I've talked about it a few times in videos and on the forums, but I want to dedicate this video to showcase how this works and why I think this is a problem and why I think it should get removed from the game, alright? So without further ado, let's figure out how this works. Okay, so Mindbender build, yes Public, I've heard about this, what does that even mean? Well, step one, this is pretty obvious. You need to use the Mindbender talent. If you aren't aware, we have a talent called Mindbender, which changes our Shadow Fiend major cooldown from a 3-minute cooldown that gives us insanity when it swings and hits our target to a 1-minute cooldown. On beta right now, Shadow Fiend's lasting 15.5 seconds, and then Mindbender lasts 15 seconds. Just kind of a weird oddity with the new spells and rank 2s of stuff that they've added. So that's what we have now. So basically, this whole build revolves around buffing Mindbender, getting more Mindbender casts, making it attack faster, and even hit harder. So let's kind of work out how that makes sense. So after you have Mindbender talented, the second step is, well, there's the Covenant abilities, right? There's a Fey Blessings Covenant ability that I've talked about in previous videos. If you've seen that, you know that Void Bolt with this ability active reduces the cooldowns of up to 5 allies. You know, that's 1 plus 4 others if you include yourself. Major cooldowns by 3 seconds. And for us, this affects Shadow Fiend and Mindbender. Now, the kind of oddity with this is it does affect them equally. So in the past, when they've done things like that, Shadow Fiend might get reduced by more than Mindbender or vice versa. But right now, it is the same across the board. So meaning every time you press a Void Bolt while Bender is off cooldown, the cooldown is actually reduced. So the whole premise of this build is taking this one ability, Fey Blessings, and kind of maximizing it to its biggest potential to see what we can get happening. So once you have Fey Blessings, you've chosen Night Phase, your Covenant. Now we can start stacking things on top of that, right? So the first thing we're going to stack on that is the legendary effect. We have a legendary called Shadow Flame Prism. So your Shadow Fiend or Mindbender deals 20% additional damage as Shadow Flame damage, and the cooldown on Shadow Fiend and Mindbender is reduced by 40%. Right, so this means we're taking a 1-minute cooldown all the way down to a 36-second cooldown, which is pretty crazy to think about. We're already trimming that much off of Mindbender, and now it's dealing more damage as this kind of Shadow Flame component, right? So we're already getting significantly more Mindbender uptime than we would otherwise just with this legendary, but that's not where we're going to stop. There's even more we can stack on top of this. So the second step in all of this, you have the legendary, you have Night Phase, your Covenant, you have Mindbender talented. Well, now we can add Conduits on top of this. So I went over Conduits in a previous video, but we have 2 Conduits here that really help us out. The first one is Blessing of Plenty. Fey Blessing affects X additional spells. The Wowhead dual tip and what we see in game isn't, matching up right now, but, it affects some amount of additional spells and enhances those casts to have a X% chance to reduce Fey Blessing's cooldown by X seconds. Depending on where you look, these numbers are kind of varying widely, but the important thing is here, there's a Conduit in the game whose sole purpose is to say, hey, every time you cast Void Bolt in our case for this build, you're going to have a chance to reduce the cooldown on Fey Blessings itself to be able to get more enhanced more enhanced Void Bolt casts out within a fight, which means, more Mindbenders, effectively. That's Conduit number 1. Conduit number 2 is Rabid Shadows. So this is just kind of blanket damage. Shadow Fiend attack speed is increased by 20%, and it deals 10% more damage, right? This also affects Mindbender equally, so again, if we're casting all these Mindbenders, you might as well buff it, right? And all of these things kind of play together, and this is kind of the build where we just stacked all the stuff on top of each other. You see the footage in the background where I'm just, casting several Mindbenders. If you line everything up with Power Infusion and everything, you can actually get up to 3 Mindbenders in a single Void form right now on beta, and that's in full quest and gear, and that's, playing at really low levels of haste. I have about 9% on this character, so, once you add gear and add haste, this could actually scale pretty out of control pretty quickly. Okay, so that's how the build works. Just some quick math, and I'll link the Warcraft log in the description if you're curious. I hit a target dummy for about 9 minutes just to see how this actually stacks up. We do have details now in game 2, so it's cool to see that. So basically, with this build, again, I have 9% haste. I was able to cast Mindbender 15 times, which, each Mindbender now lasts about 18 seconds with all these increases, and that led to about 50% of uptime over this duration, right? Now, if we compare that to what we get baseline without any of these things compounding off of each other, we only have 25% uptime of Mindbender, right? It usually lasts 15 seconds, 1 minute cooldown, 25% uptime. So we're already doubling the uptime, and that's with not everything quite working correctly. This Fey Blessings conduit is not working very well, and there are other conduits that are still kind of work in progress here. I'm having issues testing correctly. So if you think about a world where, we have proper haste from, raid gear or even dungeon gear as we get into the first raid, and we actually have, working spells, working conduits, we could easily take this from 50% uptime upwards of like 80% uptime just by yourself. And keep in mind, while you're doing this, you're also reducing the cooldowns of 4 other people around you. So, this is already giving us double uptime of our cooldown. Who knows what it's going to do for them and their builds and their damage. So this is kind of where things start to get a little scary, and why I wanted to bring light to this build, and why it's, definitely weighing on my mind about, like, I don't want to play a pet class, but here we are. Okay, so yeah, that's the Mindbender build. I just want to kind of quickly showcase what this looks like. Yeah, it's not great, right? I don't like this. It's not fun to play with. You can see from the damage breakdown, Mindbender is such a huge portion of my damage. I'm sure, damage and numbers are still kind of work in progress, but the important thing I wanted to highlight here is, with still kind of baseline questing gear, Mindbender is my number 1 damaging source with this build, guys. Like, it's crazy. We've never seen anything like that over a 9-minute period. And I think that's really what concerns me, is that, whole hogging all of our damage into our pet just doesn't sound fun or exciting for me, right? I don't need to remind any of you guys that have played a pet class for a while that the pet AI is frankly just terrible, especially on Mindbender and Shadow Fiend, where it basically, limps to your targets if you ever have a target swap or the boss moves. It's not great, guys. And not to mention, this is a build focused on Mindbender, which is going to produce, nutty damage to single target and affect cooldowns of others, but it doesn't scale well on multi-target. So it's going to be kind of a weird thing to, I want to choose this on progression rating. It does such great single target damage, but if there's a multi-target fight, it's not going to weigh out on top. But you might still be forced to run it, quote unquote, forced to run it because of the lengthy cooldown reduction that you're going to give our allies. So if we're going to do that, we might as well run this build anyway. So yeah, that's how it works right now. TLDR, I don't think this is fun or exciting. I hope Blizzard changes the Fey Blessing spell and kind of deletes this build from existence, because I do not want to be running this inside of Shadowlands, right? So there are 4 posts linked below. Please give your thumbs up to those to get some eyes on this from Blizzard. If you don't have access to beta, tweet at Blizzard, post on Reddit, whatever you guys can do. I just want to bring light to this as much as possible, all right? Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one.